Hi, I'd like to thank you for tuning back in to Poem Praise 2. Certainly, peace be upon you. And I'm going to let you know who we have next, which I already did in my previous show. Yet, if you didn't see it, our next extraordinary African American is going to be Joe Louis, who was the heavyweight boxing champion during the time period of 1914 to 1981. Yes, I'm talking about we can have a couple of jabs and an uppercut. For real. Couple of jabs and an uppercut like what's up. And let's just see what I have to tell you. You ready? About Joe Louis. And here's the information that I have on him. Now, when he won, we all won. That's how African Americans felt about Joe Louis. And luckily, he won most of the time. Called the Brown Bomber, Louis became heavyweight champion at age 23 and defeated his title 25 times, more than any other boxer in history. Now, in all, 68 men went down before Louis' left jab and right hook. Born in a tiny shack in Chambers County, Alabama, not Joas, I kind of mixed two names together. Joseph Louis Barrow was the fifth child of Lily and Monroe Barrow. Now, age 4, he was working with his mother in the cotton fields to help bring in money. Rarely able to attend school, he didn't begin to read and write until he was 9 years old. Louis began boxing when he was a teenager. In his first amateur bout, he was knocked down 7 times in 2 rounds. Not a very good beginning, right? Now, in his second bout, he won by a knockout. Now, during his 2 years as an amateur light heavyweight, he won 48 of 54 fights by knockouts. About this time, he dropped his last name, Barrow, and was known only as Joe Louis. In 1934, Louis turned professional. His managers, John Roxborough and Julian Black, saw in him a future heavyweight champion of the world. They knew, however, that the battle to make him a champion would have to be fought outside the ring as well as inside of the ring. Now, white title holders were sometimes reluctant to accept a challenge from a black contender, and riots often broke out when white boxers were defeated by African Americans. Still, no one could ignore Louis. Now, in 1935, Louis went up against Primo Carnera, last name spelled Carnera, because I might have said that incorrectly. But this is Man Mountain, who stood 6 feet, 6 inches tall, and weighed 250 pounds. To prevent any trouble during the match, 1,300 policemen surrounded Yankee Stadium in New York, where the bout was held. Yeah, you heard me right. I said 1,300 policemen surrounded the stadium. Now peep this. 300 undercover officers mingled with the crowd. Yeah, so that's like 1,600. Wow. Carnera went down in the 6th round, and the referee stopped the fight. Now, thousands of African Americans jammed the streets of Harlem to celebrate the win. Now, in 1936, Lewis was beaten by a German boxer, Max Schmeling. Adolf Hitler gloated, saying Lewis's defeat proved Germans were superior to African Americans. For Lewis, it was a crushing defeat. But he kept on fighting. In 1937, Lewis won the heavyweight title when he defeated James Braddock. The win felt good, but he was still bothered by his loss to Schmeling. So on June 22nd, 1938, he met Schmeling in the ring again. Now this time, he won by a knockout in the first 2 minutes of the fight. Yes, won by a knockout in the first 2 minutes. So that was definitely a man on a mission right in the first round. The first round wasn't even completely over with. The first 2 minutes of the fight for a knockout. Nice. Now, moving right along, during World War II, Lewis' fighting career was put on hold while he spent 4 years in the Army. A few years later, on March 1st, 1949, he officially retired from boxing. He had successfully defended his title for 11 years and 8 months, longer than any other man. In 71 professional bouts, he had been defeated only 3 times. Loyal to his family and generous to his friends, Lewis was idolized by people across the country. For millions of African Americans who had little voice in society and could not make themselves heard, Lewis's fists spoke for them. Certainly, thank you, Lewis. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Poem Praise 2. If you like what I'm doing regarding our extraordinary African Americans, certainly subscribe to Poem Praise 2. And I'm going to give you a preview of who's coming up next on our extraordinary African Americans. It's Marian Anderson. Now, she was an opera singer during the time period of 1897 to 1993. So certainly stay tuned, and I will be speaking with you soon here on Poem Praise 2. But while we are away, be blessed, and I will be talking with you later, okay? Okay, y'all. Later.